Raine Solace walked through the crystalline gates of HFY Academy of Galactic Integration, her boots tapping against a floor that shimmered like frozen starlight. The air felt thinner than Earth's, almost effervescent. A faint vibration thrummed just below perception, as if the planet hummed to itself. Aliens of every shape and hue stared at her like she was a loaded weapon. Deathworlder, someone whispered in a hissing dialect. Raine ignored them. She had spent her whole childhood hearing worse. Monster, feral, dangerous. A few gawks from fragile aliens weren't going to do much damage. The grand hall stretched like a cathedral built by something that had never seen a cathedral but understood awe on an instinctive level. Transparent walls revealed an endless storm-lit sky, violet lightning veining through turbulent clouds. Beneath the hall, the planet's crimson jungles writhed, as if breathing. She inhaled and felt the lightness of the planet's lower gravity. Her body, trained on Earth's crushing pull and unpredictable weather, felt almost overpowered. If she wasn't careful, she could probably break the floor by walking too hard. A chime echoed, sharp, resonant. The crowd quieted. Raine straightened her academy-issued uniform. It was the same as the others, midnight black, silver crest, but somehow looked more militant on her. She didn't try to look intimidating. She simply didn't know how to look harmless. The podium at the far end of the hall illuminated. Commander Zevrix Tal-Shar appeared, tall and skeletal, wrapped in layered garments that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. His species, the Valorians, were renowned for intelligence and psychic strength, but physically, they looked brittle enough to snap in a light breeze. Zevrix's eyes scanned the students until they landed on Raine. The disdain was immediate. "Ice cold and absolute. Welcome," he announced, voice amplified by unseen tech. "Today we begin the ceremony of submission." Raine tensed. She had studied academy protocols for months. She had never seen anything by that name. Students shifted, some nervous, some excited. Zevrix extended his arms as the lights dimmed. "As per ancient academy tradition," he said, "all non-council species demonstrate respect to the established order." Raine didn't blink. The wording was a trap, a hierarchy disguised as tradition. A hologram appeared overhead, cycling through images of previous first-year classes. Raine watched aliens, tall, short, armored, feathered, drop to one knee before their instructors. A kneeling ritual. Her stomach turned with a slow, simmering anger. Zevrix continued. "You kneel not because you are weak, but because you recognize your place." Raine didn't move. "You will kneel," Zevrix said, "and pledge obedience to the council." So that was it. Humiliation packaged as diplomacy. Several alien students glanced toward Raine, eager to see the Deathworld monster submit. She watched their eyes, hopeful, curious, vindictive. Zevrix smiled without warmth. "Human, step forward." Raine stepped into the center of the hall. The floor displayed her name and species in holographic script beneath her feet. Raine Solace, species, human, Deathworld. Zevrix descended the steps, robes swirling like liquid metal. Raine noticed how he stayed just outside arm's reach, like someone approaching a wild animal. "According to protocol," Zevrix said softly enough that only she could hear. "You kneel before the council." Raine raised her chin. "Earth bowed to no empire. It won't bow to a school." His pupils dilated, a flash of real anger. "You misunderstand. This is not a request." He touched a control band on his wrist. The gravity in the room increased. The sudden weight hit Raine like an invisible hand pressing her shoulders down. Students gasped as she staggered one step. "Okay," she thought, adjusting her breathing. He came prepared. She set her feet and resisted. Zevrix leaned closer. "Kneel." Raine's voice remained steady. "No," the gravity intensified. A few students buckled, collapsing to the floor. Zevrix didn't care. His focus stayed locked on Raine. She gritted her teeth. The weight wasn't painful, just heavy, familiar. Earth trained her for this. Every storm, every ocean riptide, every day the world tried to kill her had strengthened her muscles and her spine. "You cannot win," Zevrix said. Your species is a mistake. The Council regrets uplifting you at all. Raine met his eyes. We uplifted ourselves. A murmur rippled across the room. The planet reacted. Lights overhead flickered. The floor vibrated, not from machinery, but from the ground itself. The crystalline tiles beneath Raine's boots trembled like struck glass. Raine felt something pass under her feet, like a pulse. Zevrix finally stepped back, startled. What was that? Raine said nothing. She didn't know, but she recognized instincts. Whatever the planet was, it was aware. A student whispered, frightened. Is the human doing that? The tremor faded. Zevrix recovered his composure and gestured sharply. 2 armored guards approached, insectoid beings nearly twice Raine's size. Their exoskeletons clicked with every step. Force her down. Raine didn't move. The guards grabbed her shoulders and pushed. She held her ground, not by muscle alone, though she had plenty, but by absolute refusal. The guards strained. Raine remained upright. Zevrix's composure cracked. How are you resisting? Raine spoke quietly. On Earth, gravity tried to crush us. We learned to stand, one guard hissed, mandibles rattling, and shoved harder. Raine shifted her weight, planted her heel and twisted her shoulder free, sending the guards stumbling without even appearing to exert force. The second guard hesitated. Zevrix snapped, Kneel or be removed from the academy. The command triggered a wave of murmurs. Removed meant expelled, or worse. Rumor said the academy sometimes lost problematic students during off-world transport. Raine took a breath. She could end her dream here. She could give Earth a future, if she stayed. But if she knelt, humans would forever be seen as less. Her father's words echoed in her thoughts, spoken years before she left Earth. You don't have to win. You just have to keep standing. Raine lifted her chin higher. I stand for my planet, she said, voice steady, and we don't kneel. The hall fell silent. Zevrix's face twisted with fury. He reached into his robes and pulled a small crystalline rod, a device used for psychic amplification. A ripple of psychic pressure burst outward. Students flinched, ears flattening, antennae drooping. Raine felt the pressure slam into her mind, sharp, invasive. He tried to force her. Her vision flickered. Images flashed in her skull, kneeling. Submission? Inferiority? She shoved back, mentally digging her nails into her identity, human, not prey. Never kneel. Her resistance shattered his projection. Light burst like static between them. The floor beneath Zevrix fractured. Hairline cracks, spiderwebbing outward. Tiny shards lifted from the floor, weightless for a moment, then settled. Gasps erupted around the hall. Zevrix staggered. You how? Raine didn't raise her voice. You wanted to break me. But you only revealed yourself, he glared. What are you? Raine held his gaze, human. The fracture on the crystalline floor was still visible long after the room emptied. Raine stood alone while the murmurs of terrified students echoed down the corridors like fading. Ghosts, she didn't savor the moment. She didn't feel triumphant. Her hands weren't even shaking. She just felt tired. Commander Zevrix hadn't spoken again. He had stared, jaw clenched so tight the tendons trembled, then stormed out with a sweep of his cloak. But Raine saw the hatred in his eyes. He wasn't done. Not even close. A chime sounded behind her. Human. Raine turned. A student, tall, silver-feathered, owl-faced, watched her with curious eyes. His feathers puffed, a sign of nervousness. You did not kneel, he said. Why? Because I don't believe in hierarchies built on fear, she replied. The student considered that, then nodded. My name is Lorien. Before Raine could respond, a harsh voice cut through the hall. Cadet Solace. Zevrix stood at the entrance, reinforced guards flanking him. His expression was carefully neutral, but his aura crackled with restrained fury. You will follow, he ordered. Raine walked beside him, refusing to trail behind. The guard's mandibles clicked anxiously. Zevrix led her through the academy's lower training wing. The architecture shifted from elegance to brutal practicality. Metal walls, sealed blast doors, the hum of containment fields. Is this about the ceremony? Raine asked. Zevrix didn't answer immediately. He led her to a domed chamber labeled Combat Assessment Arena. Inside, the light lowered to deep red. The air smelled faintly metallic, like static and ozone. Zevrix faced her. "This academy upholds discipline," he said. "You demonstrated defiance in a sacred ceremony." "It wasn't sacred," Raine replied. "It was domination wrapped in tradition." Zevrix tapped his wrist console. "A containment gate slid open with a hiss. If you refuse to kneel to authority," he said, "you will kneel to fear." A heavy thud vibrated the floor. Raine braced instinctively. From the shadowed gate emerged a creature taller than a transport shuttle door. 6 limbs ended in talon claws. Plates of natural armor glistened, overlapping like volcanic rock. Its 3 eyes burned amber. A Krillin Hellion beast, an apex predator from a high-gravity toxic world. Even Valorian warriors feared them. Raine had studied wildlife classifications. This thing was beyond dangerous. It killed for efficiency. "Are you insane?" Lorian shouted from behind the glass observation booth. "You're releasing a Helion on a student." Zevrix ignored him. "This beast bows to nothing," Zevrix said. "It will teach you humility." Raine didn't answer. She watched the creature's stance, weight evenly distributed, neck forward, claws digging into the ground. It was measuring distance to her throat. The gate behind her locked with an audible click. The overhead voice issued protocol. "No weapons, no armor. No assistance." The beast roared, a low, bone-shaking vibration that rattled the panels. Raine took 1 step forward. Her voice was low but steady. "You're trying to prove something." Zevrix's smile was thin. "Yes, that Deathworlders are animals." The beast charged. Raine shifted her weight and sidestepped, narrowly avoiding the slash of its claws. The creature hit the wall with enough force to shake the arena. It turned, snarling, hot saliva hissing when it hit the floor. Raine wasn't afraid. Fear came with a surge of adrenaline, and her heart remained steady. Instead, she felt the familiar quiet inside her chest, the focused calm Earth had taught her. The Helion lunged again. "Faster!" Raine rolled under its strike, palm skimming the cold floor, then pivoted to stand behind it. She didn't strike, didn't kick, didn't provoke. She let it feel her presence. Predators understood dominance differently than people. Zevrix sneered. "Fight it!" "No. You refuse even self-defense?" "I refuse your game." The Helion spun toward her, but this time she didn't move. She locked eyes with it, shoulders square, feet grounded. No aggression, just certainty. In the animal kingdom, predators didn't always attack the hardest prey. They attacked the weakest. The Helion hesitated. Its breathing slowed. Raine spoke softly, barely loud enough for the observation deck to hear. "I'm not prey." The beast lowered its head, nostrils flaring, catching her scent. It circled once, slower this time, confused. Then, without warning, it swept its tail toward her legs. She jumped, clean, effortless, using the planet's lighter gravity to her advantage. She landed silently. The Helion froze. Raine didn't break eye contact. "I know what you are," she murmured. "A survivor. So am I." The beast huffed, unsure. Zevrix slammed a fist into the console. "Crush her!" The Helion flinched at his tone. Raine didn't look away. Earth's forests flashed in her memory. Brown bears testing boundaries, packs of stray dogs forming uneasy truces. She remembered her father's voice, training her to stand her ground. Do not show fear. Do not escalate. Become the immovable point. Raine raised her hand slowly, not threatening, just present. The Helion leaned forward, muscles tense. Then stopped. Silence devoured the arena. The beast lowered itself to the floor, not in submission but recognition. It knelt. Zevrix's expression shattered. "Impossible," Lorian whispered through the glass. "She broke a Helion without touching it." "No," Raine said quietly, eyes still locked with the creature. "Respect isn't taken. It's given." The Helion nudged its massive head toward her shoulder, a gesture of acknowledgement. Raine rested her palm against its armored snout. Its rumbling breath vibrated through her bones. Zevrix's voice shook with restrained rage. This test was not authorization for— This wasn't a test, Raine said, turning. It was punishment. Zevrix opened his mouth to retort when the arena shuddered. The floor beneath them thrummed with energy, the same pulse Raine felt during the kneeling ceremony. The planet was reacting again. Zevrix's pupils shrank. Not possible. The neural lattice is shielded. The Helion snarled toward Zevrix, sensing his hostility. Zevrix panicked and slammed the emergency recall. A field of energy surged around the beast, pulling it back toward containment. The Helion clawed at the floor, resisting separation from Raine, until the field finally forced it inside the gate. The door slammed shut. Raine stood in the center of the arena. Breathing steady, Zevrix pointed at her with a trembling hand. "You are a danger to this academy, to this planet, to the entire council." Raine didn't give him the satisfaction of reacting. He stepped closer, voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "You will kneel." Eventually everything breaks. Raine held his stare, calm and unflinching. "Not me." The arena lights flickered. The floor pulsed again, stronger. Zevrix stepped back, unsettled. "Get out of my sight," he snapped. "Report tomorrow for re-evaluation." Raine walked out without looking back. Lorien met her outside the chamber. "You didn't even fight it," he said softly. "How did you make it kneel?" Raine exhaled, feeling the weight of the day settle onto her shoulders. "You don't force what you want respect from," she said. "You don't need to break something to prove you're strong." "What if Commander Zevrix doesn't stop?" Lorien asked. Raine headed down the hallway, jaw set. "Then he'll learn something about humans." "Which is?" Raine didn't hesitate. "We don't break. We adapt." And far beneath their feet the planet pulsed again, like a heartbeat awakening. The next morning, Raine woke before dawn. She hadn't slept much. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt the planet's pulse, faint but aware, like a quiet presence brushing the back of her mind. When she stepped into the corridor, students parted. Not out of respect, out of caution. They looked at her the same way one looks at a storm on the horizon. Lorien intercepted her halfway to the training building. "Zevrix has been gathering senior council members since sunrise," he whispered. "He wants to remove you from the academy." Raine didn't slow. "He doesn't get to decide that." "He's commander of discipline," Lorien insisted. "He can do whatever he wants as long as he calls it protocol." Raine paused at the entrance to the grand hall. "Then it's time protocol learns to bend." She pushed the doors open. The hall was packed. Not just students, faculty, administrators, council representatives. Zevrix stood at the front, surrounded by a halo of projection screens showing footage from the arena. The moment the Helion bowed to her replayed on every display. Zevrix's voice carried, crisp and acidic. She exhibits abilities outside the expected human range. She influences planetary feedback responses. This goes beyond defiance. It threatens our ecosystem. Raine stepped into view. "You dragged me into a cage with a Helion and blamed me for the outcome?" Gasps rippled through the room. Zevrix turned, face smooth as polished stone. "You are unstable," he declared. "An unpredictable variable. Draka's Academy cannot risk harboring a species that manipulates beasts and destabilizes planetary systems." "I didn't manipulate anything," she said. "I refused to show fear." Zevrix extended an arm toward the crowd. "See? She refuses accountability even now." A councilwoman spoke from the dais. "Human cadet, your presence appears disruptive. Why should we allow you to remain?" Raine met the councilwoman's gaze. "If you remove me because I didn't kneel, then this academy isn't about unity, it's about obedience." Zevrix cut in sharply. "Humility is required for education." Raine didn't raise her voice, but each word landed like a hammer. "Humility is learned. Submission is taken." Silence swallowed the hall. Zevrix gestured to the guards. "Escort her to transport. She will be sent back to her planet for disciplinary evaluation." 2 guards advanced, heavy steps echoing. Raine held her ground. "If I leave this hall kneeling, every human that comes after me will kneel too." If I stand, you endanger the balance of this world, Zevrex snapped. The lights flickered. The floor trembled, not from machinery, not from footsteps, from underground movement. Raine felt it travel through her bones. Lorien shouted from the balcony, "It's the lattice network. The planetary core is responding!" A low hum built beneath the crystalline tiles, deep and resonant. Zevrex froze, eyes widening. Not again. The ground shook harder, enough to knock the nearest guard sideways. Students clutched seats, wings, tentacles, anything for stability. Raine didn't move. The sensation was familiar, like the planet was not reacting to stress but waiting for her to choose. Zevrex turned his fear into fury. "This is your doing, stop it!" "You're the one trying to force me," she said. "The planet reacts to coercion." Zevrex reached into his coat and drew the psychic rod, the same device he used yesterday. He raised it toward her. "You will kneel!" Lorien yelled from the balcony. "You can't use that here!" "The spatial field isn't stable." Zevrex activated it. The psychic pressure slammed into Raine like an avalanche. Her knees buckled halfway before she caught herself with one hand on the floor. The weight inside her mind pressed, clawed, demanded. "Submit." Her muscles trembled. Her heart hammered. Zevrex advanced, tone dripping with victory. "You have limits." Raine's breath was ragged. "Limits don't mean weakness. They mean choice." He pressed harder. Her vision blurred at the edges. The rod pulsed with white heat. "Kneel," he hissed. "And this ends." Raine could feel the planet's pulse now. Stronger, louder, syncing with her heartbeat. The tremor intensified. Panels on the wall cracked. Glass filters shattered, raining fragments that hovered in the air instead of falling. Raine slowly pushed herself upright, not by force, but by conviction. "We kneel," she said, voice shaking yet steady, "to help others stand, not to feed someone's ego." The rod flickered. Zevrex's hand shook with fury. "No creature defies me." "You don't want obedience," Raine whispered. "You want control." The rod overloaded. A shock wave erupted. The hall floor split down the center, crystal fracturing like ice under a heavy blade. But instead of collapsing, the split deepened, lowering the central platform. The entire hall was shifting downward. Students fell to their knees, not in worship, but because the gravity field spiked unpredictably. Zevrex stumbled, one hand grasping the railing. What is happening?" Raine stood at the epicenter, steady and upright. The ground beneath her feet dipped into a shallow bowl. Shape. Kneeling. Not her. The planet. The hall lowered until the platform looked like a living gesture, an entire terrain. Bending, gasps rippled through the space, Lorien whispered, voice shaking. "The planet is bowing to her." Raine looked around. Not triumphant, but humbled. "This isn't submission," she said softly. "This is resonance. You pushed. I stood. The planet chose." Zevrex lunged, desperate, swinging the rod toward her in a last attempt to dominate. Raine caught his wrist mid-swing. "No!" Her voice held no anger, just certainty. The rod shattered in his hand. Zevrex fell backward as if the strength left his legs. He collapsed onto his knees, helpless, powerless, kneeling not by choice, but because he could no longer stand. The council members stared. Speechless, Raine released his wrist and stepped back. "We don't demand kneeling," she said, voice quiet but clear. "We earn respect by giving it." The platform slowly lifted again, returning the hall to its original shape. No one moved. Raine looked at the councilwoman. "If Earth has no place here, say it." The councilwoman rose, voice unsteady. "Earth will remain, represented at this academy." Lorien burst into a breathless, disbelieving laugh. Zevrex struggled to stand. His voice was ragged and venomous. "You think this makes you superior?" Raine turned toward him. "No, it makes me free." She walked out as hundreds of eyes followed her, no longer with fear, but awe. Whispers trailed behind her like a tide pulling outward. She stood. The planet bowed. Deathworlder. Outside the hall, the morning sky cracked open with streaks of violet light. The pulse beneath her feet was gone. Quiet now, satisfied. Lorien caught up, breathless. So, what do humans do now? Raine looked toward the rising sun. We learn, she said. And we build a future where standing tall isn't rebellion. It's normal. Lorien nodded slowly. And Zevrix? Raine glanced back once, expression unreadable. He learned something too. What's that? Raine's voice held the faintest edge of a smile. You don't force someone to kneel when they were born standing. Rumors spread faster than any broadcast. By midday, the entire academy, every dorm, lab, and skybridge buzzed with one narrative. The Deathworld girl didn't kneel. The planet did. Students stared as Raine passed, whispering behind hands or tendrils. Some looked inspired, others offended. A few stared with open hostility. Raine kept walking. Victory didn't feel like triumph. It felt like a fuse burning toward something larger. At her locker, she entered her access code. The panel blinked red. Access suspended. Temporary hold by Administrator Raine clenched her jaw. Sabotage disguised as protocol. Behind her, a voice purred in amusement. Locked out of your own space already? Fast work, she turned. A tall student leaned against the railing, skin like polished copper, tail casually flicking. His name badge read Cassian, Varan Dominion. She'd seen his type back on Earth during conflict briefings. Predatory charm, eyes always measuring, Cassian grinned. Commander Zevrix may have failed, but I don't need psychic rods or ceremonies. I just need time, Raine folded her arms. Is this supposed to scare me? No, it's a courtesy. Cassian stepped closer. You humiliated a Valorian. Those people never forgive embarrassment. They destroy problems quietly. Raine met his gaze without flinching. Let him try. Cassian's laughter was genuine. Deathworlders. No survival instinct for politics. He sauntered away, tail swaying with smug satisfaction. Raine waited until he disappeared around the corner, then exhaled slowly. She wasn't worried about Zevrix, but she was starting to realize the confrontation wasn't over. It had just moved into shadows. The evaluation. The summons came during afternoon instruction. Raine's wristband vibrated with a message. Report to Sanctioning Room 6C. Immediately, no explanation. No context, Lorien grabbed her sleeve. Don't go alone. It's a summons, Raine answered. If I don't go, they win by default. A few students stared, clearly eavesdropping. One, with deep blue skin and bioluminescent freckles, whispered, That room is where they send cadets who violate harmonious conduct. Lorien paled. People don't come back the same, Raine placed her hand over his. Thank you. But I decide my path. She left before he could argue. Room 6C looked nothing like a disciplinary office. The walls were lined with curved mineral plates that hummed faintly. A single chair stood in the center, sleek, metallic, with arm restraints. Raine's pulse sharpened. Zevrix stood near the far wall, cloak draped over one arm controlling a console. His expression was too composed, too rehearsed. She didn't sit. You'll have to restrain me, she said. Zevrix smiled without warmth. There's no need. Today's session is diagnostic. We are scanning your neural lattice to understand your effect on the environment. You mean you're trying to figure out how I made the hall bow? He ignored that. You triggered planetary interference, he continued. That should be impossible, Raine crossed her arms. The planet reacted to your aggression. He pressed a button. The restraints snapped shut around the chair arms. Raine hadn't even sat. Metal bands shot out from the floor, fastening around her ankles. She was pinned upright, locked in place before she could twist away. Zevrix leaned in close. You never understood where you are. Kirvara is a psychic biome. It amplifies dominant emotional fields. You, Deathworlder, created resonance. Dangerous resonance. Release me, Raine said quietly. No. The mineral plates on the walls brightened, emitting a pulse that vibrated her skull. Raine felt pressure behind her eyes, like a hand pushing inward. Zevrix watched intently. You will be examined, catalogued, and contained. Once we understand what makes humans resistant to psychic control, we can replicate... A sudden crack split the nearest wall. Zevrix's eyes widened. Not possible. The planet reacted again. The restraints trembled, hairline fissures racing up the chair's metallic spine. Raine didn't force anything. She simply refused. I will not be contained. The plates shattered. Energy rippled through the room like a shockwave. Zevrik stumbled backward, shielding his face from flying fragments. Raine tore her wrists free, metal snapping like brittle ice. The restraints crumbled onto the floor. The pulse beneath her feet felt like an answer. Zevrik's voice was a hoarse whisper. "You're influencing the neural layer without contact." "No," Raine said calmly. "The planet reacts to intent. Yours was control. Mine is freedom." Zevrix lunged toward her, pure desperation replacing logic. His hand curled around her throat. Raine didn't hit him. She didn't need to. The gravity in the room shifted, just beneath him. The floor buckled, pulling his weight downward. His grip slipped, his knees dropping hard enough to crack the tile. He knelt. Breathing hard, he stared at her with disbelief. "You are a threat to everything we built." Raine stepped back, voice controlled. "No, I'm a reminder." "Power wasn't yours to begin with." Zevrix hobbled toward the door, humiliated and unbalanced. "This isn't over," he hissed. "The council will shut this down." Raine's voice remained steady. "Let them try." Repercussions. Words spread again, but this time, not whispers. By evening, students approached her without fear. A tiny reptilian cadet tugged at her sleeve. "Is it true? You broke the chair no one could break?" A group of winged students hovered overhead. "Do humans really stand against authority?" Raine crouched so she met the reptilian girl's eyes. "We stand when it matters." The girl nodded solemnly as if she were witnessing something sacred. Lorien arrived, breathless. "You're trending on the internal network." Somebody clipped the kneeling moment. "It's everywhere. Good or bad?" Raine asked. "Both," Lorien answered. "But mostly hopeful." He looked down the hallway where students replaced fear with something dangerous to bullies everywhere. Admiration. "You changed the culture here," Lorien said quietly. One day, Raine didn't feel pride. She felt weight. Change always had a cost. Late night. Rooftop observatory. Raine found a quiet place above the academy, where the walls turned transparent and the sky sprawled endless and violent. Lightning rippled across clouds like silver veins. She touched the railing, feeling the faint pulse beneath the metal. "I don't know what you want," she whispered to the planet. "But I won't be used." The wind shifted, no words. No voice, just presence. Lorien stepped onto the platform, hesitant. "You okay?" "No," she admitted. "But I'm going to be." He sat on the railing beside her. "Cassian isn't done. The Varan Dominion hates losing status, and Zevrix will go to the council with whatever story suits him. Then I'll be ready." Lorien studied her face. "Do you regret standing?" Raine looked at the storming sky. "I regret nothing that keeps others free." For a moment, neither spoke. The wind carried silence between them, comfortable, steady. Lorien finally smiled. "Deathworlders aren't what I expected." "Most people aren't," she said. Thunder rolled below, echoing like distant applause. When Raine left the observatory, she didn't notice Cassian hidden in the shadows, watching. He touched his wrist comm. "Begin the next phase?"